Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeCharis, CPA extraordinaire, coming to you live from downtown Bethpage, Long Island, New York, for another amazing episode of How to Win at Business. And if you're watching live, please give me a hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. That helps me keep track of what's going on with Facebook and LinkedIn and whatever else, YouTube, and it makes me feel good. And if more importantly, if you have any questions or comments, it links you to the thread so you could see what's going on with the topic today. And as you could see, I have my screen up here. I want to announce our latest free monthly workshop with where my team and I put together this unbelievable topic: protect your family, your business, and your assets from the IRS. The more I do this, folks, the more I'm talking about compliance issues and really about how to not get caught up in the web, get caught up in the shredder, the machine, and keep yourself free to run your business. That's what it's all about. It's really not about hiding from the IRS. What I call it is hiding in plain sight. There is no underground economy anymore. It's all being vetted through all different means and resources that the government has at its disposal now. The digital currency, the new tax laws. Oh my God. I can't believe the last couple of years, all the different tax laws that they've passed uh, in the guise of COVID. They manipulate the business world, the economy, with what's going on currently, and I understand that, but there's been so many changes, and a lot of them not very good. A lot of them are revenue producers, which usually means that it's going to hurt small businesses. Because let's face it, they're already going after the large businesses. You can't get blood from a stone. If they're not already squeezing the large businesses for as much as they can, unless they raise taxes, and raising taxes on large businesses always has a counterproductive result, because what do businesses do? Either they start moving their stuff offshore, which is going to become less and less because we're becoming more of a global economy, and I'll get into that today in today's training with the new well, it's, I don't know if it's new, but it's kind of scary, the W8 uh, BEN, and I'll explain what that is. But the global economy is getting smaller. Countries are cooperating. They're talking to each other because you know it's all connected. It's all connected, and so our workshop on Tuesday. I hope you can register. I put the link in the chat. If you have trouble, if you can't get the chat for whatever reason, if it's on Twitter, if it's on LinkedIn, I don't know how that works, to be honest with you, but you can always just go to bedrockbusinessbuilders.com and go to the link. I don't know if you could see my little arrow up here, but it says events, and then in the middle is workshops. I have nothing to do with this. My team puts this together. Janine, our great graphics person, and we come up with these topics together. And hey, Sharon, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them. I've learned how to put the comments in there, and you're very welcome. I'm glad that people are finding it informative, and I am getting some really good feedback because I try to be current. I try to be current on what's going on, and to be honest with you, folks, the stuff that's been going on the last couple of years is really, it's moving way too fast for people to keep up with it. Uh, it's hard enough to keep up with the old tax laws, but to keep up with the new ones, it takes a village, it takes a community, and I'm so happy that there's a lot of online communities for accountants, and I'm not the only one saying this. I saw a post by a fellow accountant that's been doing this a long time, just like me, and she was just venting and saying, I don't know if it's me or what, but she feels lost in a sea of all these alphabet laws, the CARES Act, the whatever act, this act, that act, and that every law seems to have some kind of tax attribute in it. And they passed this what is it? Foreign uh, the FACTA law that has to do with foreign entities, if you have foreign assets. So they're looking for individuals, United States citizens that have assets in foreign countries, and that's why now all the countries are. And I don't know if they've always been, but now it's in plain sight. Uh, they have all kinds of treaties going on. Let me get into the lesson for tonight, which is this new form. And like I said, I don't know if it's new, but I was never aware of it. And this came up because of the 1099 issue. So if you've been living under a rock, if you're not aware of all of the uh, requirements that are coming into place this year with 1099s. Let me take off this thing because it's annoying me. They've lowered the threshold tremendously for individuals that are doing business. And, this is not a new push. Let me just make that clear. The whole independent contractor issue has been around for long before I even started in accounting, and that was 40 years ago. So, let's just get this straight. This is not a new issue. The whole idea of independent contractors not reporting income, not paying their fair share of taxes has always been an issue. Just like, cash businesses were always an issue, and now there's virtually no cash businesses. There's very few cash businesses. Even, bars, restaurants, convenience stores, delis, bagel stores. They don't have too much cash. Everybody's paying with a debit card, a credit card. I mean, it's quicker, it's cleaner, and it's traceable. So one of the things, because I'm on top of this with my clients, I'm telling them, what to be aware of, and that we got to start issuing 1099s to everyone. That's our policy. If you're doing business, I don't care if it's a corporation, an LLC, an individual, we are asking for our clients to get the W-9 forms now, not at the end of next year. They're due January 31st, 2023. I can't believe that I'm saying that. But we need to get that information now, just like when you hire somebody, you don't ask them for a W-4 later on when it's time to give them the W-2. You ask them for it before you start doing business with them, because you're required to. And you're required, it's not an option. That's what people have to understand. It people considered issuing 1099s before because they considered it an option because there was very little blowback. Okay. And I'd say about 10 years ago, they put a little question on a tax return, all, ta- all business returns, Schedule Cs, partnerships, corporations, if you are required to file a 1099. That's it. It was just a little question. And then there was another question that said, if you are required, did you? So obviously, it's a loaded question because if you're required to file a 1099 form and you don't, well, that's a red flag, and that would say, tell the IRS, well, they lied on this one, so uh, well, okay, so they're not going to know you lied unless they audited you, and so people played the audit roulette thing. So, okay, so who is this? I'm having an issue with my glasses here. I see Sharon and Manea Everett, and we're going to get to this. Do employees in the Philippines have to pay taxes? And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I'm taking a long time to get to it, but just the background stems from the 1099 requirement. So we're all over the 1099 requirement, and if you don't know, if you pay, and right now the way it is, the law is if you pay an individual over $600, you have to issue them a 1099, and the only way to do that is to get their tax info. A W-9 form will protect you, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to protect you. The W-9 will get their tax ID number, the name and address. But more importantly, they are certifying, people that sign these forms, tax forms, don't realize that they're certifying that they are not subject to backup withholding. So what's backup withholding? Backup withholding is if somebody has not paid their taxes, if they've been flagged, or they don't give you a tax ID number, they will have taxes 30% of their payments withheld, just like payroll taxes. Now, this doesn't happen to most people. You see it a lot on bank accounts, dividends, and for some reason, the bank or the brokerage house didn't get the payee social security number, so they say, "Hey, we're going to withhold some taxes here." So I've seen that from time to time with my clients, and I tell them, "Listen, give them your social security number so that there is no backup withholding." So I get a question this year from a client. We're doing royalties, and they have two authors. One's a U.S. citizen; she lives in Australia, and another one is not a U.S. citizen living in another country. And she says, "How do we give them 1099s?" And so it's a good question, because if so, the U.S. citizen, that's an easy one. She has a social security number. She lived here. Right now, she's living in Australia. Uh, we issue her a 1099 like anyone else, because she is being taxed on her worldwide income. Okay, so if you're a U.S. resident, or a U.S. citizen, and you have a social security number, you get a 1099. Now, for a foreigner, there is no social security number. Okay, and they're not subject to U.S. taxes unless there's no treaty. So I did a bunch of research, and I came across this W-8BEN. Okay, and what this is a certification that the payee is not subject to U.S. taxes. And if they are, because the country that they live in does not have a treaty with the U.S., the payer or the payer agent is required to withhold 30%. So who's a payer agent? Because that's who's on the hook here. And who does this affect? This affects anyone that outsources to other countries. If you're in the United States and you outsource to the Philippines like we do, or you outsource to Bangladesh, or you outsource to India or Mexico or Canada, okay, anywhere, you are required, not optional, you are required to get a W-8BEN. Okay, now this is for individuals. For entities, if you're doing business with an entity overseas, and every country's got their own form of corporations, LLCs, I guess. That would be a W8BEN-E. Okay. Now, what the payer agent is me. I'm a company in the U.S. and I work with people that are overseas. Right now, they're all in the Philippines. They are great workers, great people to have on your team. I highly recommend working with them if you have an opportunity. Not that people from other countries are bad. I just got lucky and came up with a formula, and we have a whole team of I think we have six full-time people in the Philippines now. And to be honest with you, I wasn't aware of this. Now, I'm a CPA and I'm on top of this stuff. Uh, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, I didn't know it. I don't know everything. And that's why, if you've watched my YouTube channels, if you followed me, one of the things I tell people is question your accountant. Don't assume that they know everything. Uh, Yes, that is correct, Sharon. Uh, so this is what I'm advising all of my clients and you. If you outsource, uh, you are a withholding agent. Okay. Now I looked at the law. I looked at the instructions. Now, if you don't get this filled out, guess what? You are on the hook for 30% of whatever you've paid. Now, also, if you've been following me and you know the fact that the IRS is hiring over 80,000 uh, auditors and revenue agents, if you don't know what that is, the auditors audit businesses. That's who they're going after. And agents will, I might have that backwards, but anyway, uh, there's revenue officers and revenue agents, and the agents, I believe, are the collection agents. They collect the money. So there's going to be a lot more audits of small businesses, s-corps, anyone, partnerships. That's why they're hiring them. And the audit process is going to be simple for them. It used to be very labor intensive. They had to uh, make an appointment. You had to go in. You brought in your records, and they would spot check, based on your transactions. Now they just have you fax everything in. Now they just have you fax everything in. A lot of it is going to be machine driven. So, and it's going to be very, very easy for them to spot red flags. So, for instance, if you have on your tax return marketing, professional fees, website design, they're going to look for two things. They're going to look to see, number one, if you filed a 1099 for people, and if you have any outsourced workers. So now there's a publication, and forgive me, but I forgot which publication it is. It's in the instructions in this form, and it's a pretty straightforward form. If you see it, you don't need me to explain what this is, but I'll tell you what the certification is on the bottom. The person or persons that are filling this out are saying they're certifying that they are not subject to U.S. taxes. Okay. Now, if they are and they're lying, at least you've made an effort. Okay. You got to at least make an effort, because in the instructions, in the law, what it says is there's a presumption. You have to presume that they are subject to 30% withholding. Now, a lot of countries have a treaty with the U.S., meaning that basically it's sort of like the diplomats. They won't arrest us if we don't arrest them. That sort of thing. So if we have a treaty with them, they're not subject to withholding. They're not subject to U.S. taxes. And yes, Minaya, I hope that I'm saying your name right. Uh, well, no. Okay, so here's Monet's question. If they don't pay it, the higher it is. No, that's the problem. That's the problem. If my people are subject to US taxes and I don't withhold it from them, I'm paying it. The withholding agent, and I started to say, who is a withholding agent? The withholding agent is the individual or business paying the money. So now, don't have to get. It's not as bad as it might seem. So if yeah, way. That's the way it is, and that's what it's sort of like, sales taxes. If you know anything about sales and payroll taxes in the United States, it's what they call trust fund taxes, okay? And if you withhold that money and you don't pay it in, you're held personally liable. This is sort of the same thing. You're supposed to withhold it. So sales tax and payroll taxes, you're supposed to withhold, and if you don't, that's not a defense. You can't say, "Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to withhold the money." I had a client; he had gotten in trouble because he was supposed to be collecting sales taxes in his business, and he didn't. And they came to us, they came to my firm after they had already gotten in trouble. They owed New York State over $200,000 in sales taxes, and that put them out of business. So this sort of thing, and listen, folks, here's the bad news. Things are changing. Things are changing quickly, and if you're not on top of this stuff, it could knock you out. It could put you out of business. So if you outsource through something like Upworks, or I think it used to be Elance, or one of these online uh, agents, they're taking care of that. Okay, they are collecting the money from us, and they're responsible for getting their own W-8 forms. Okay, so you don't have to worry about getting it. It's only when you deal with somebody one on one, or you hire a company. I've hired a company that had a whole team of independent contractors. So I would get that would be a W-8-E. I'm getting the company to say that all of their workers are not subject to New York's United States taxes. So yeah, okay. So here is Monet. Do we have to pay taxes for? No, no, Monet. So what you want to do is you want to protect yourself, and this is how you protect yourself. You you have all of the people that you're working with fill out this W-8-BEN. Now, this does not go to the IRS. This is just like a W-9 form. You don't send it to the IRS. Uh, you keep it for your records. And I would say it's going to be when, not if. It's going to be more likely that U.S. businesses are getting audited now because they're just going to be like automatic. Uh, you you need to have these in your files. I am getting all of my workers to fill this out, and it's going to go into our digital file. And just like if I hire an employee, I'm going to have the W-9, the W-4 form, the I-9, to prove that they're legitimate, they're legal to work in the United States. And what this form is basically saying is that if you're a foreigner, you're not subject to US taxes. And you're not subject to US taxes if you're one of those countries that have a treaty. And like I said, I apologize for that. I forgot which uh, publication it is, but it's in the instructions for this form. Again, if you want to connect with me and talk about this, feel free to go to timewithjoe.com. I'll be talking more about this subject in the next couple of days because I see this as being big. This is a biggie, and it's not something that you want to ignore. So two things with the W-9 forms. What we are advising our clients to do is to anybody they're doing business with to get a W-9 form. It doesn't matter if they're a corporation. We will be issuing 1099s to ourselves for our clients that pay us. Now, here's another thing. The requirement is $600. Well, how do you know when you're going to go if you're going to go over $600? This is why at the end of the year, a lot of and we're on my our clients all year. Get this info. Well, this is it's hard to get people to change. They're not used to it. It's like, oh, another form I got to. Well, that's tough. That's tough because if you're in business, you're required to do this stuff. It's like when you buy a car, you get a license. You're required to get insurance. You're required to register it. Required to get an inspection. People don't even think twice about that. They don't like it, but that's the cost of driving a car. There's a cost to doing business. And if you don't pay attention to these little things, they can sink you. Because one thing I can do is I can predict the future when it comes to the IRS. I see what they're doing. They are squeezing. They're squeezing. Okay, it's like I said, this didn't just happen. This has been going on for decades. And little by little, because of technology, 2 points: technology and the government's thirst for money and control and power. And we have over 30 million businesses in the United States. 27 million are still classified as sole proprietors, believe it or not. Guess who they're going to be targeting? Because sole proprietors are the least prepared. And that's who these trainings are really geared towards. My whole business, Bedrock Business Builders, is really geared towards connecting with those small businesses that usually don't have the time, money, and energy to pay attention to these compliance issues. So, like I said, uh, okay, let's see. We got a couple more questions. Uh, yes. Okay, Sharon. Thank you. Thank you for interacting here. Uh, yeah. So the point with the W-9 forms, because you don't know if you're going to pay somebody over 600. Don't wait until you're like, oh, this check puts you over 600. So can you please give me a W-9 form? I've had people that refuse to give it to my clients. They said, no, I don't want to give you my social security number. I'm like, well, that's too bad. You're required to. It's not a request. Yeah, it's a request, but it's a requirement. So you get them right before you do business with them, before you start paying them. It'll be a lot easier to get. Uh, so now, Monet, no, you don't. Okay, so Filipino employee. Well, they're not employees. So let's get that straight. They're outsourced workers. They're really independent contractors. What you're going to do is you're going to send them the uh, the W-8 BEN form to sign. You're going to have them fill it out and sign it, and then you just save it. You don't send it to the IRS. The IRS doesn't want to see it unless they audit you. So that's my story for tonight. I went way over on the time I wanted to spend, but I will be covering this subject again because it is big. It's very big. I've been outsourcing for years. I didn't know this form existed. I don't know if it's a new form, but it got my attention. It got my attention very quickly, just like the 1099 issue got my attention because I said, you know what? If you have a business, let's face it, if you have an accountant, you have to be giving your accountant a 1099 at the end of the year. If you have a coach, A business coach, they get a 1099. Okay, I'm getting questions like this. Now, if you're doing stuff through PayPal, through Venmo, they're going to take care of the paperwork. Just be careful because you will be on the hook. Believe me, mark my words. If you don't have the proper documentation, the W-9 form, the W-8 form, you are responsible. Okay, God bless. Have a great night. I will be back again. Thank you, everyone. And I will be back again with another.